production. It's June 12th, 2009, and Candy is doing all the videoing for this. Now she'll be scanning and I'll be talking on the video during the process. This piece of equipment happens to be an old two-bottom sulky plow, old potato planter, and the third item is a potato, old Massey Harris potato digger, and the fourth item is an old Massey Harris sickle mower. This is all turn of the century equipment. That's good, kid.
Wonderful.
Is that okay? This is a 1930 four-wheel drive Massey Harris tractor. It was Massey's first real tractor they ever produced on their own. Before that, they had bought out J.I. Case Tractor Works, and they used their type of tractor up until 1930. And this was their first real design, and it was a four-wheel drive. And it happens to have an 8-foot Massey Harris field cultivator behind it. This happens to be a Massey Harris four-wheel drive. It was an experimental tractor. They only built 12 of these tractors, and they only know of 3 that exist right now. This one happened to come out of Canada and was owned by the forestry department up there. They use it to pull water wagons into the forest to put out peat bonfires. The sign that is next to the tractor was the original old Massey Harris sign from back in the 40s that was from the Cosmos Massey Harris dealership right here in Cosmos. And it's, like I say, a fairly unique piece of equipment.
Go.
This is a Massey Harris crawler. It's an experimental model, and we happened to find it way up north of Duluth, up by 2 harbors, and it was all in pieces. So I and Andy and Charlotte, we spent all winter putting it back together, getting it ready for the show. The grader behind it, our neighbors down the road knew I was fixing up this old crawler, and he told me if I wanted it, I should send Andy over with the tractor, pull it home, and we could have it. So we decided it would be a nice piece to put behind the tractor, the crawler. This is a Massey Harris four-wheel drive. It happens to be a gray tractor. Back then you could get tractors in either gray, green, or red, and they just happen to paint them whatever color they decided when they come out of the line. The second tractor there is a 101 Massey Harris Super, and that was the very first tractor I ever bought, and it was the first, my dad, that was the first kind of tractor he ever had. What's special about it, it was the first really styled tractor they built, and it's very unique because it's the very first year they built that tractor. And the third tractor in line, it's red. Now, this is the third tractor in line, and it happens to be a straight 101, and it was originally painted Canadian Air Force green or gray, whatever you'd want to say, and it had a Chrysler Marine engine in it. And this tractor was brought in on rail, and it had a cracked engine block, and it was parked at the Air Force yard for many, many years. The drawbar had never been turned around on it. It was still wired on underneath the way they hauled them on rail, and it still got the original tires on it. And I restored the tractor and then painted it red instead of having it Air Force gray. This one here is a Massey Harris Pony, and it's the smallest one Massey ever built for tractors. The next one in line is a 22 Massey, and that come from a local neighbor here. When he bought that tractor, he farmed 500 acres of land, and he had a 4-row cultivator on it. It was his main tractor. And next tractor is a 44 Special Diesel. That I and Greg picked up by Glenwood, and it was all in pieces, and we put her back together, and it turned out to be a good tractor. Yes, this tractor is a 1947 Massey Harris 44 6-cylinder with a single front wheel. My son Patrick, when he worked for the sheriff's department, he spotted it in town pulling an old field cultivator. And he called me on the telephone and told me there was a tractor in Litchfield that had a single front wheel, and I kind of laughed at him. I told him that, yeah, it has a single front wheel because one wheel fell off. He says, no, no, Dad, it's a single front wheel. Well, we hardly got started talking, and he had an emergency call to an accident, so he had to leave. And about 4 hours later, he come back to look for the tractor, and we could never find it. We had no idea why it was in the city of Litchfield. And this went on for a whole year. We looked for that tractor. And it happened to be, we hired a young man to work with me at the elevator when I worked, and he happened to come back to the shop one day, and we got talking old tractors, and just out of nowhere, I'd mentioned this old tractor with the single front wheel. And he says, I know whose tractor that is. That's my neighbor just halfway mile down the road. And he wants to sell it because he's moving into town. So I quick went and looked at the old tractor, and here this tractor had traveled. He bought it new up by Litchfield. He lost his farm shortly after that. They got rented away from him. So his brother-in-law invited him out to the state of Washington for a job out there because they could make pretty good money. He hauled it out there in a 1947 International truck. Him and his family and all their goods were loaded in the back end of the truck, and away they went to the state of Washington. Well, that didn't work out, so they moved to the state of Oregon, worked there for a year, and that didn't work out for him, so he moved to Northern California and got a job as an electrician, worked out there until he was well past retirement. Then he loaded the old tractor back up on a flatbed trailer and hauled it way back to Minnesota, so that tractor's got a few miles just to be hauled around. But it all started with Pat. And that's about all I can tell you about the tractor. This tractor here is a 1952 30. It was one of my first tractors I bought. We used it with a hog transport for many, many years, hauling hogs around the yard, moving from one pen to another. And now it's kind of semi-retired, but it's still a good tractor. The next tractor is a 1952 30 with a wide front, and that's Andy's tractor. He got that a year or so ago, and he's really proud of it. And it's a real hard-working, good tractor. We use it for almost everything around the yard. The third tractor down the line is another 1952 30. And that tractor, when we found it, it had been in a fire and partially burnt up, but we cleaned her up and restored it, and it turned out to be a nice tractor also. And this old tractor right here in front happens to be my old raking tractor. That gets used almost every day, all summer long, and it's a very good working old tractor. Okay. This is Massey Hare's 44 Special, and it's got tracks on it, and these tracks were built for Massey Hare's tractors. And back in the 50s, we had some real wet years, and the only way we could get small grain out is to either have tractors with tracks, or otherwise they'd put duals on the combines, which if the combine went down in the mud, the tractor couldn't pull it. And this tractor did a lot of custom combining that year, and if it wouldn't have been doing the custom combining, what didn't get combined never did get combined and grew in the windrow and was plowed under as manure. So that they were quite a lifesaver back then. It saved a lot of farmers from going under. Okay. Go ahead. Look at Mommy. Tell Mommy when she's ready.
Sure.
Say hi, Mom.
Hi, Colt.
This is Colton. He's sitting on Grandpa's tractor, and he loves tractors. You can't hardly get him off from them. And Mommy, she's videotaping this, doesn't she?
No.
You like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is your favorite tractor, isn't it?
Okay, yeah.
You want to get off? Okay. Was that fun?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to tell you about that one.
Okay, these tractors here they're the Western or Wheatland tractors. So the reason they call them that, they're all standards. They got standard front ends. They're not adjustable for row crop work. And a lot of these come out of the Dakotas or out of Canada. And in this country here, we had pretty much all row crop tractors. And they eventually just kind of got moved in here because after people started collecting old tractors or whatever. And there's the one real dark one down there where Colton is right now. That come out of northwestern North Dakota off an Indian reservation. A school teacher owned it. She taught school out there for 40 some years, and her husband had passed away and she wanted to sell it. So I and Greg, we went out there and bought that and her equipment that she had. She was moving back to Grand Forks. She was retiring. She was about 75 years old, but she taught out there for many, many years. These two tractors, first one here is 101 Senior, and also the second one is. And Greg and I found them. One comes from western North Dakota, and the other one come out of Bird Island. And they're quite unique because they both got wide fronts, and they're about as original as you can get. They're real original tractors. They don't have much paint left on them, but it's the original paint yet. Them tractors are over 60-some years old. Back here are some of my tractors that they run okay, but they need a little more work, and eventually we'll get to them and we'll restore all these too. If I live long enough and Andy has enough patience with me, and Charlotte. We'll go back to the 1100 by the boys.
What's cold?
This first tractor here, that's my old 1100 Massey, or mine and Andy's. And we got 3 Indians in there. There's 2 in the cab and 1 trying to get in, and they always have a ball playing in the tractor cabs. That's Colton, Daniel, and Joshua. And I don't know if you can see them waving, but they're in there and they're having a ball. The second tractor was Greg's tractor, one of the first tractors he bought. It's a 180, and then when he moved up north, up to the lake, and then now it's my tractor, and I use that one for baling all the time. The next tractor is an old tractor that I had for many years to do chores around the yard. In the wintertime, I had an old cab I put on there just to break the wind, and that got used steady every day for about 30 years. It always started, every day it had to start in the wintertime, because we always use it as a manure tractor. This tractor here is a 1954 Massey 33. It's my first baling tractor because it has live power, and the boys always thought that was the best tractor I had because it had so much power. The next tractor is a 33 with a wide front. All the boys drove that tractor all summer long, either pulling hay rack loads or raking hay. Every one of the boys drove that tractor and got many hours on it. And they can all tell you stories of that tractor from years back. The next 3 tractors, we don't use them much. We only had them for a few years now. And the boys don't have as much interest in them because they didn't sit on them and put as many hours on those tractors. But they do enjoy driving all of them. This tractor is a Massey Harris 55. It's considered a standard tractor just because of the way the fenders and everything on it. And this tractor come out of Antelope Valley, South Dakota. And the kids have driven that tractor quite a bit too over the years, and they really enjoyed that tractor. They did a lot of plowing and threshing shows with it, and it seems to have fairly good power. This second tractor here is a Massey Harris 55 diesel, and that's considered a rice tractor. It has a different front end on it, and it's got wide flotation tires, and that was built for farming down in the southeastern states where they raised a lot of rice, and it was wetter, and they needed something that had a little more flotation and still had power. The third tractor over there, that come from the same place out in Antelope Valley, South Dakota, and that's a 55 diesel Wheatland. It's got the big wide fenders, and it's kind of a unique old tractor. They usually come with hand clutches. That one happens to have a foot clutch. And I guess this would be about the end of my tractors, and I really enjoyed to have Candy tape this for me. Thank you. How was that?
This is Gerald and Shar in their wonderful tractor Massey Harris Ferguson collection. Aren't they lovely?
Well, welcome and come on in.
The wonderful guest book.
This is an old Massey Harris cream separator, and it happens to have the original old milk pail that I used to milk in when I was a kid. And we have the original Massey Harris cream separator oil also. And that's back when we milked by hand. That's before we had milking machines. So it's an old machine, and it's run by hand. You crank that one by hand. And it's quite a unique old. There were very few sold in the United States. They were more of a Canadian milking machine sold in Canada.
And again, it says Massey Harris. Right there. A neat picture that actually lights up when you plug it in. And Gerald, what is all this?
Oh, this is all old Massey Harris memorabilia that the Massey Ferguson memorabilia that dealerships give away. There were matches, cigarette lighters, jackknives, decks of cards, pencils, pens, you name it, they gave it away to promote. And I happen to have been collecting that since I was a kid back from 1950s.
Wow. More memorabilia. Well, Shar, why don't you explain how many hours of work you've put into all these quilts?
Because I don't remember. I just stay up till 3:45 in the morning.
They turned out wonderful. Very, very nice. Something to keep them warm.
The one with the miscellaneous gold and red logos are from actual Massey shows that were t-shirts. And we weren't using the t-shirts, so I decided to make Gerald a quilt. But the in-between is from a dress that I wore for the 1995 Atwater show.
Wow.
Will you have a glare in it from the lights?
Not too bad.
Tell me when I should start. This picture is kind of unique. I got it from my brother Paul. He had found it somewhere, and it's the old Massey Harris dealership where he's selling tractors, and it's exactly like the one where my dad originally bought his old first tractors from. The building and the sign and everything is identical. I was in that building many, many times, so it's kind of a unique picture. I really enjoy it. This is a Massey Harris belt buckle collection. The ones on the bottom are all tractors, and the ones on the old barn, them are all the old combine belt buckles. So, and it's kind of a set. There's every combine Massey ever made is on that set of buckles there. So it's kind of a unique combine picture. These old yardsticks are old yardsticks that were given away by the Massey dealerships. Some were quite unique because they go back to the old dealerships that were really short-lived, and there happened to be one right in Cosmos here in Abbey. Cosmos yardstick from the Cosmos implement dealer of the Massey Harris dealership. These pins and plaques here are pins and plaques that we've gotten from different Massey Harris shows we went to all over the United States and overseas, and I always try to collect them and then show them and display them. So we've gone to a few shows over the years. This is just some more memorabilia that I've collected over the years. That's just little odds and ends and just unique to collect.
And these are so Gerald really knows what time supper is.
Any time of the day, they all got a different time on them.
Oh, Massey Harris. And this is a lot more collectibles. All this stuff. And Christmas lights. Coloring books. And Gerald, you gotta tell about that receipt. Why do you have one receipt sitting here?
That receipt happens to be from 1951. My dad bought a brand new tractor, and it's the only memorabilia that I got from that old dealership. And it happens to be July 6th, Pat's birthday. And it's the original receipt that my dad must have carried in his bill for about 6 months, because it was really tattered and I had to laminate it to save it. But it's kind of something that I thought was kind of unique. There, how does that sound?
That's wonderful.
Okay.
The day of the show, everybody that has came so far. Look who's coming up. Colton, tell Grandma and Grandpa bye-bye. Say bye-bye.
We were eating, this is his picnic table. We eating there.
Oh,
One guy was sitting next to me, that's some kind of stuff.
nice.
Honey, should we get some more juice? Here, here's the chips. Go up here, eat the chips. Can I get you more juice?
People walking everywhere. Giving a ride to everybody coming up and down the roads.
Here, what's yeah. Sit right there. Then you like this through there. Should we take it home with us? There you go.
Who is this little girl? Who are you?
Colton, here's your chips. Colton, you're kicking stuff off, buddy.
Then I get a deal to talk to him. Yeah.
Everybody's grabbing a little bit of lunch right now.
Garbage around the corner.
Hi, Gina. Penny. Our wonderful servers for this day.
Yeah, the fridge. I'll do that then. Yeah.
Hey, Shar. How does it feel so far?
You have to get these little guys to stand still so she can get her name in order.
We are going to take a group photo of the family.
Right up there. Got too far away.
Sierra with more food. I have proof she's eating. You want to tell Grandpa something, Sierra?
Why?
You want to tell Grandpa something?
Why? Sure. I love you.
Sierra, you want to go for a four-wheeler ride?
Yes.
Why don't you grab your hat?
Do you want to tell Grandpa and Grandma something?
I love you. Great show.
And there she is, still back behind the table. Hey, Logan.
Well, if anybody's gonna find it, it's me. Yeah. Oh yeah.
How many videos are you making? And look at all those guys getting together and smoking.
Take it.
Got it. Here they come, and who is driving?
Not just the right work on it.
Daniel driving.
He wants to drive all the time. You know, Josh won't let, they won't let Josh drive. Me and Greg took her right off the last street.
This is what is left at 8 o'clock, the ending of the night.
It's real hard to show
Dan, you trade food! Dan, why is it
That shed there is one over at door. Freeze back.
And Gerald is still explaining everything to people. Hasn't sit yet.
It's a tight fit.
Wow. Goodbye, everyone.
You got the date and time on there?